Hello, welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm trying to find my sound. Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for being here today. This is the live office hours for the School of Sweet Georgia. My name is Felicia from Sweet Georgia, and this is a time that we come together and we meet about all the things that have happened inside the School of Sweet Georgia over the past month. And so this time just gives us a chance to catch up and talk about all the things that have happened. So I'm really excited to be here today and to be trying some new things. I have like kind of a new computer setup, so I'm hoping that everything works okay. Internet should be good, but if anybody has any questions, please feel free to message me either in the community or here on YouTube. And I can see all of your chat messages as they come up as well. I see Kathleen is here. Thank you so much. Very, very excited to be here today. Let's jump in and talk about the things that we are going to talk about. And I'll show you what we have here. Let's see if I can get this correct, because I have so many things on this screen right now. Can you see this? Here we go. There's my screen. Okay. So normally this is what we talk about every month, sort of from the very beginning. We talk about what's top of mind. We talk about a bit of what's going on in the community. We talk about the latest updates, including what kind of classes are coming, what the events are that are going to come up as well. We have usually some Q&A, and the biggest part of these meetings is to share what has been going on with you and what you've been working on and what you've been making as well. So today, we are going to first start with this idea of what is top of mind. And you can see in this little, oh, can you see? You can't see. You can see in this photo that I have here that I recently got back, maybe just like a few days ago. I just got back from a trip to Asia. And so I've done a tiny, tiny bit of knitting. You can see in my lap there, it was my falling leaves sweater that I was working on. And I'd finished the yoke, this color work, hand knit yoke and everything. And then I basically had 14 hours on the flight to knit, but I managed to knit the neckband and that was about it. And then I was just busy with a whole bunch of other things. So I have lots and lots of things that I'd like to work on for sure for this month. So let's talk a little bit about what's top of mind. Now I'm going to see if I can get your messages up here. Don't want that. No. Okay, I'm going to see if I can find your messages here. Probably not. So maybe if Greta can let me know what messages there might be as we work through. Oh, I can kind of see them here. I see good morning. I could see good morning. Okay. Yes. Oh, that's weird that it says March 2021. That's bizarre. Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm going to keep track of what you guys are saying in the comments as we go here, but I can't see it on screen right now. But the very first thing that is kind of top of mind that I wanted to chat about is here. And that is the idea of winter arc. I know that not everybody lives in sort of a part of the world where winter is coming, but here in Vancouver, for sure, we are coming into the next couple of months, which are going to be cold and dark. And those are photos of sort of my winter. Definitely, like I am up at very much 5 o'clock in the morning very often, and we are in snowy conditions. We are seeing gorgeous sunrises. It gets quite dark, actually, and just living through not a lot of daylight and things like that. In any case, winter arc is kind of like a term that started to pop up for me on my social feeds. I don't know if you heard this term. The first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh, what?" It was kind of like a Game of Thrones reference, but it wasn't. It was actually a reference to a lot of people sort of in the fitness world and the sort of like a self-improvement world are talking about this idea of winter arc, meaning the 3 months before January. And rather than waiting until January to set your goals for the new year, like new year, new you kind of things, rather than waiting until January, the idea is to start a little bit sooner, start in October's. Use the months of October, November, December to really put in place some good habits, to put in place some good routines for setting yourself up to be able to achieve the goals that you want to achieve starting in January. And so this kept showing up for me in terms of like exercise and fitness and going to bed early and getting lots of sleep and not being on your screen so much and all of these kinds of things. And I started to think about like, what would that mean if I was going to do this as a maker? How could this apply to all of my other goals, not just my exercise goals, but what if my other goals? And so I looked at how could this work for makers. And one of the things that I try to do every year is I try to clean out my whole attic and get this whole space set up again for the new year. I try to clear out old projects. I try to sort of reevaluate what were the things that I wanted to make and all these kinds of things. And so, if winter arc is this idea of it's a time to set goals, it's a time to develop good habits and practice discipline with the things that you're wanting to make, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that time for my making as well and go into this with some intentionality. So right now there's only 2 days left in October, but I was away for most of October. But if you're looking at October and taking these next 2 days to really think about what are your possible intentions or your goals that you could set for yourself for the next couple of months before the end of the year, think about what are the new skills that you've been wanting to learn that you haven't had time to learn about this past year? What are the kind of projects that you need to finish? Maybe you need to go through your yarn stash and clear that out before the new year even begins. So, this is maybe a good time to do that. In November, kind of going through all of your inventory of your supplies and your stash and the things that you have and the things that you are surrounded by, like maybe there's some stuff that could be, passed to a new home or shared with others or things like that. So these are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about right now as well. And then maybe think about a big long-term project that you've been wanting to work on. I have some ideas for long-term projects that I can share with you because November we have our Winterful Weave Along coming along. So maybe that's something that you want to tackle over the next couple of months. So these are all projects to work on and things to think about over the next couple of months. And then December, I know some of us make projects for others. We make gifts for others. And so that might be something that you want to focus on in December. And then usually between the dates of sort of Christmas Day and New Year's Day, I take all of that time to sort of sit and reflect and journal. I've talked about this a couple of years on various YouTube videos about talking about how that's like my hibernation time. It's a creative hibernation time. And so that's a moment where I sort of stop and look at the year. But I think that that is basically like a mental preparation for the new year. It's kind of clearing out my brain, writing a lot, doing a lot of journaling, all of that kind of thing. Whereas the actual physical act of resetting and clearing up, I feel like I always save that until January and then I never get it done. So this is part of the reason why I'm wanting to suggest that for myself, I'm going to try doing it now rather than later. So rather than waiting until January to do all the reset, I'm going to start now and sort of wind down and take stock of what I did this year. So this might be a good time for you to also check in with your learning plan if you've written one in the SOS forums and look at what were the things that you were thinking about making this year. How much progress did you make on them? Maybe your priorities changed. Maybe your interests changed. Maybe you got interested in a different project or a different technique and it just took you down a totally different path this year. That's totally fine. But it's just nice to stop and take stock of all of that. And so that's kind of what's been on my mind recently. Now, I did get a message from the Circular Sock Machine Knitter Society. They have this skills program that I've been wanting to work on, and she sent me a message about, oh, I'm going to be away these days to these days, so send your package after this date. And it was a reminder that, oh yes, I want to get that done before the end of the year. So I'm going to be working on my CSM skills sort of submission. I want to finish this girdwood sweater that is here in the middle, this middle slide here. This one I have been working on for basically a year now. If you go back and you look on the YouTube videos, I started splitting up this fiber. I was dizzing all of the fiber. I split it up into all different color groups. I spun a 3-ply gradient hand spun yarn and then used that to knit the yoke of this sweater. I love the sweater. It just requires some more attention so that I can actually finish it. And then this second sweater is the one that I was working on the plane. And I finished the neckband. And from here, theoretically, I should just be able to zip down with my knitting machine and get that done as well. So these are the projects that I'm hoping to finish before the end of this year. Of course, there's a couple of other things that I also need to finish, including I have a machine knit scarf on here. I have a woven scarf that needs to be finished, and I have some waffle weave core samples that need to be finished as well. And so that is all happening. So those are the things that I'm going to be working on for the rest of this year. So I'm curious about what you guys might be working on as well. I saw a couple of people were saying that I'm very confused because the live office hours heading says March 2021, but I think I'm in the right place. And yes, you are in the right place. I have been setting up a different computer system. And so I think when I pulled the file to make that slide, it was incorrect. It's the wrong one. It's an older one. So in any case, you are in the right place. This is October 2025 right now. So we'll go on and talk a little bit about the community. Now, this is something that we talk about every month because we do encourage you guys to sort of make connections with each other in our Sweet Georgia community and our School of Sweet Georgia community. So if you have not yet popped in there, from your School of Sweet Georgia account, there is a tab here that says community. And under here, we've tried to consolidate and streamline a bunch of things as well. And we have sort of grouped everything together to make it a little bit more clear, we are hoping. And so you can see this is the page with the listing of all the virtual meetings that we have, whether it's on Zoom or on Google Meet or anything like that. All of them are listed here. And then we have our SOS community forums here. And then that is where you can get into this whole area where you can ask questions about the courses. We have course instructors who are answering you directly with answers to challenges that you might be having. And so I'll highlight one of those upcoming as well. It is just a fantastic space to be learning and to find information. So yeah, we appreciate everybody who's sort of popped in there as well with questions. And yeah, encourage you guys to connect there. Now, the other thing that you'll find when you're on the School of Sweet Georgia site is you will find the events calendar. So if you click here, you'll find the events calendar. And this is what the events calendar looks like for November. And so you can see that generally we have lots and lots of meeting times for everybody. So if you like to meet in Zoom, sort of in person, well, not in person, but on Zoom, and meeting face to face with others on Zoom, then we have many, many meetings. All of these pink meetings, basically, we have community-led meetups on Sundays. We have Monday meetups with Robin. We have Wednesday community-led meetups. On Friday, there are quiet co-working sessions, which are also meetup times. The quiet co-working sessions are basically meetups where people come and then everybody goes on mute, and then they work on the projects that they've brought for that hour. And you might chat before or you might chat after, but during that 1 hour, all of the microphones go on mute so that everybody can work quietly. And it's kind of like a body doubling technique where the idea is that when someone else is in the room with you working on their project quietly, then you feel more compelled to continue working on your project quietly. And it actually works and seems to help increase the productivity or increase the sort of effectiveness of that time for many people who join. So if that's something that you're interested in, that is available as well. And then we do have the live office hours that we are running here. And we are in the midst of looking at moving this live office hours to our community. And so that's something that we are working on trying to do as well. So let me see. There are can we? Oh, yes. I think that there are a couple of people who have joined us from the community site. So that's something that we're going to explore a little bit more. But our goal is to hopefully move some of these live streams to the community site, and we're in a bit of a transition time right now. So look for your emails to indicate where we're going to do these live streams in the future. So that's kind of what is coming up over the next couple of weeks. And then we also have a dedicated weaving meeting that we do and a dedicated fiber prep and spinning meeting that we do. And so these are times where you can come and talk specifically about these particular topics. Otherwise, all the other times are open to talk about whatever you like to talk about. Now, in terms of other places to connect and meet, earlier this year, we did build this new space called the Sweet Georgia Community. It's built on a platform called Circle. And Circle offers us the opportunity to have this mobile app. So then you can sort of connect with everybody in a much more portable way. So if you're on your phone more than you're on your desktop, this could be a great solution. Now, we are finding that like there's a lot of great conversation and a lot of people contributing to the conversation here on Circle on that community forum. And but I do want to sort of like remind you that none of this is actually mandatory. There's nobody sort of forcing you to participate or anything like that in the community. We don't want anybody to feel sort of like guilty that they haven't popped in there or anything like that. This is very much just available for you if this is something that you like, if this is a way that you like to connect with others. But otherwise, it's just here for your benefit. We encourage you guys to participate, but don't feel like guilty or bad if you haven't popped in or anything like that. Sometimes I get emails from members of the school who say, "Oh, I'm so sorry I haven't gotten into the forums. Oh, I'm so sorry I don't have time to post." And that is totally and completely fine. So this is just available for you if you would like to participate. Now, if you are a member of the school, there are a couple of sections in the Circle community that are specific for SOS members. And so we've set up that SOS events section and the SOS member section. And yes, so that is something that you can check out. I encourage you guys to have a look around that community and poke around and see what people are doing. So the next thing is the latest updates. And so for the latest updates, I just want to quickly remind you that the last two courses that have come out, this is one of the more recent courses that's come out, the one with Barb about learning how to use your knitting machine. If you've never touched a knitting machine before, this is the very first class. She literally takes it out of the box and sets it up and gets that all working. So that is one of the things that you guys can try checking out. Now, I did see that in our community, the Sweet Georgia community, we have some members who've already finished some projects with their knitting machines. So that's very, very exciting to see this coming up. And yeah, looking forward to seeing more of what you make with your machines as you sort of become familiar with them. And as well, the course that launched earlier this month, just like 2 weeks ago, which was my CSM knitting class. So this is the class that I taught for circular sock machine. This is the absolute basics of working with a circular sock machine. I happen to be using my Erlbacher knitting machine, but the techniques and the concepts should transfer over to whatever CSM you happen to be using. So if you're using a 3D printed one, it should be fine because we're talking about tension. We're talking about how to find a good tension for your sock, how to take measurements, how to measure and do calculations for your sock recipe. All of those kinds of things are in this particular class. So I'm excited to hear about what you guys are doing with the sock content as well. And then we wanted to sort of highlight some of the things that are going to be coming up next year as well. So this is just a quick behind the scenes shot of what has been happening at the studio. I know that sometimes if we're not necessarily launching courses on the school, you're wondering what's going on. Are we making anything? We're making a lot of things. And so this is just one of the courses that we are going to be coming out with next year. And so you can see there is Greta in the back there, and she is working on producing a course here with Linda Marvang. Linda Marvang is a knitwear designer from Norway. She specializes in cables and very architectural garments. She has a background in architecture, and it was really, really wonderful to meet her over the past couple of, it was probably about a month ago. So she came to Knit City all the way from Norway. She taught a class for the Knit City participants. And then after that, she came to our studio, and then she spent a couple of days filming a new class. And so this new class is going to be about advanced cables. So if you've done any cable knitting with us before, we have sort of like a getting started with learning how to knit cables and texture in our school already. But this course that Linda is teaching is kind of like next level cables. They are reversible cables. They are cables with ribbing. It's just some crazy cables coming. But the garments are absolutely gorgeous. So if this is something that you're interested in, what we're hoping is, like this past year, we did a bit of a sweater knit along with color work, stranded color work. And so we're hoping that next year when we do this sweater knit along, the sweater knit along focus will be cables and texture. And so this is something that we have coming, and very, very excited about all of this for next year. Now, what other classes do we have coming? We actually also have a few more classes coming. We have classes in spinning cotton with Rachel Smith. That is going to be coming up. And we were filming that actually just yesterday at the studio. So Greta was working with Rachel Smith, and Kathy was there as well with the filming. And Rachel's coming in next week as well to finish up that filming for spinning cotton. And we were talking about charkas, we're talking about spinning, all sorts of different things. And so really, really excited for that content to come out, because that's kind of been in the planning, in the works for a while. And then, of course, like I've mentioned before, we have machine knitting for hats, for lace, and for socks. All of that is coming. And we're working on ankle weaving with Andrew Bryson. Oh, Rachel's here today. That's fantastic. Nice to see you. So we have ankle weaving coming as well for next year. So there's a lot planned and a lot coming in 2026. So we're very, very excited about all of that. Now, let's talk a little bit about if you have other things that you would like to work on over the next couple of months. Like I mentioned, if you need a big project to work on this winter, we have this. We are going to be doing the Winterful Weave Along this November. And so the idea is that we're going to be focusing on weaving stripes, plaids, and tartans. So any combination of those. We have two patterns that you can kind of choose from. One of them is the Pacific Plaid pattern, which is this one. The Pacific Plaid pattern is the pattern that I sort of put together for the class that came out earlier this year called Stripes, Plaids, and Tartans. And this one happens to be woven in the Knoll Merino. It's a little bit of a finer set. So this is 20 ends per inch. And then it's a 2-2 twill. So you would need like a 4-shaft loom for this. The other project that you could, if you prefer to work on a rigid heddle loom, or if you prefer to work at a thicker set, or with a 2-shaft loom, if you have a rigid heddle, or if you want to do plain weave on a 4-shaft, you can do that as well. We have this other variation, which is called the Shoreline Plaid Scarf that we've made for rigid heddle loom. And this one is done with the SweetGeorgia Trifecta fine yarn that we have. So you can see this is a photo of our merino lamb's wool. In cones, we have a whole bunch of different colors now. So if you want to create your own different colorway, color combination, that is totally available for you as well. But you can see these are sort of the details. If you go to sweetgeorgiayarns.com/winterful weave along, you'll find all of the details there. But we're very, very excited to see what you guys are starting to make with your plaids and tartans. And I have some other inspirational things coming in the next couple of slides as well, because it's been fun looking at all of these plaids and tartans. I know Robin is working on a big project with her tartan as well. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what you guys all make with these. Now, let's go to a quick Q&A. And the Q&A is basically a question that Julia posed about some yarn that she was using for this project. She's making some towels, and she said the main problem is that the selvage threads keep unwinding their twist, and then they're getting weaker and thinner. And so the full question is available at this particular link in the SOS forums. And so Julia was saying, I'm working on a towel pattern from Just Yarns. I'm using their linen cotton duet, and I wound extra selvage threads into my warp and then found that they were always too loose to stay neat while I'm weaving. So then I decided to hang some weights on them. And so I'm struggling with the edges of the warp, keeping the same tension as the middle. But the main problem is that the selvage threads are constantly unwinding their twist and getting weaker and thinner. I've resorted to rubbing beeswax on them for a few inches above the woven cloth, which helps with the fraying and to make them stronger, but it is tricky to do without making the area too sticky or waxy. I've heard that edge threads losing twist isn't uncommon. How do other folks deal with this? I'm also thinking that maybe I should stop including my selvage threads in my warp and then add them later with separate weights so I can just replace or adjust them easier. But I don't have much space behind my loom, so having them hanging down the back or weighted on the floor is pretty annoying to deal with. And or maybe a non-linen selvage would be stronger overall. And in the future, should I just use cotton? So there's like a lot of questions in here. And it's actually been great because if you follow this thread, Laura Fry, our weaver, our master weaver, Canadian master weaver, who also teaches many of our classes here, has replied with a couple of suggestions. One of them being that because duet is a blend of two different yarns, it's actually one ply of cotton and one ply of linen twisted together. So they're plied together. So you can see the difference between the two different fibers. They dye differently, the colors are different. So it creates a really beautiful effect when it's woven, but it can be a little bit tricky to actually weave because those two plies are already loosely plied to begin with. And so it requires like a little bit more delicate handling, I think. Now, Laura suggested using a humidifier to make sure that the yarn doesn't get too dried out. Depending on the humidity, the linen can act a little bit weird, and also like different ways of hanging the weights and things like that. But I think that Julia's initial sort of idea of keeping the selvage threads separate and hanging them separately from the beginning rather than winding them in with your warp is a good idea overall. Then you can just adjust those selvages and adjust the weight as needed to keep up with your fabric. So I do encourage you guys to go and follow that particular thread and check out and contribute if you have any sort of experience working with the Just Duet, just because it's a really, really good thread that's in there, good question and answer sort of situation in there. So I encourage you guys to pop into the community and check that out. Now, the next part is really about sharing the things that you have worked on. And one of the things that I wanted to first share is by Greta. And I think Greta is here. She's on the community live stream right now. And so I'm sharing the work that you have done, Greta, because I think it's really, really interesting. And you guys can also look more into her conversation about this, but I just wanted to highlight it for you here. We have, over the past many years, been taking up techniques and practices and habits that we've learned from various spinning instructors in the school. And so one of the spinning instructors is Kim McKenna. Oh, hi, Greta. Is Kim McKenna. And Kim has sort of shared with us this way of dizzing the fiber that we're going to spin, putting it through either something like a lock pop or hand cards or a blending board, and basically like helping to fluff up and prep and clean up the fiber before even attempting to spin it. And so Greta's here says that she's doing a tiny experiment with a braid of fiber where she dizzed half of the braid and spun for a 2-ply. And then she spun the other half basically straight without any prep, and then also plied as a 2-ply. And you can see here are her lovely bobbins. So I'm assuming that this one is the one that was spun straight end to end. You can already see that there's sort of color differences here. And then this one is the one that was dizzed. And yeah, it looks already, just color-wise, it looks a little bit blended and a little bit more smooth. But if you go to this meeting notes page, you can find more details and you can find the finished 2-ply yarn that Greta spun. And on the Monday call where they do the fiber prep and spinning meetup that happens once a month, every month, the Monday meetup, Greta talked about this in more detail. So if you want to go and check that out, we do archive all of the replays of these meetings on the School of SweetGeorgia site. So I encourage you to pop in and watch through some of those meetings because yeah, there's many spinners who will pop in and join and share the things that they've been working on. And so this is just one of the projects that Greta's been working on. I know Greta's working on a lot of spinning projects and a lot of knitting projects as well. So yeah, these are gorgeous to see. The spinning is absolutely gorgeous. So fine, so pretty. And now we're going to change gears completely. And I'm going to show you this one. And this one is punch needles. So Kathleen is also here in the chat today. She has been posting, she has this big long thread that is called Revisiting Punch Needle. And every month, Kathleen has been very diligent about creating something new and posting something new. And sort of in previous months, she's done sort of landscapes, but they've always been sort of like, they're not coaster size. They're bigger than coaster size, but they are like these projects that we can sort of that are doable within the time frame. So every month she's been consistent about posting something. And so this past month she was posting that she was playing with plaids. So looking at using the plaid graphic but applying that to punch needle. Plaid is basically warp and weft threads that are the same color, and when they cross over, they create this kind of pattern. But in this case, punch needle, you can punch anywhere. It's completely arbitrary and freeform where you can punch your little colored dot. But she was playing with it in this way where she's able to run these lines of color, crisscross lines of color, and produce a plaid effect, but with a punch needle texture. I think it's so fun. And so she said this little square is inspired by plaid, very cool technique that allows you to play with color. And so she's got some red, some green, some gold, and white all mixed in here. And then the next one I thought was actually really cool because the next one is her own family tartan. So this is the Stevenson tartan. So you can see here what it is meant to be. And then she's translated that into punch needle here. So I thought that was very, very cool. It's kind of like the mixing and blending of techniques and applying something that you've learned on one side and applying it to another side. So that is so fantastic. And I love seeing sort of like the progression of all the things, Kathleen, that you've been making over the past year. And it feels kind of like you've learned more and more and more. And now you're like applying it and experimenting and doing all sorts of different things with it that maybe you wouldn't have thought of maybe like a year ago. So I think that that's all great to see that kind of progression and development. The next thing I wanted to bring up was these posts by Kira. Now, I talked at the very beginning about this whole idea of the winter arc and planning and looking at your learning plan, setting intentions and your goals, maybe thinking about it now rather than in the new year. And Kira, I noticed, had a very interesting way of updating her learning plan. So when she first joined the school, she created this big long document because she's lots and lots of ideas, which is fantastic. She had it all divided up into, things that I want to do about my floor loom, things that I want to do about weaving, things that I want to do about spinning, things I want to do about all these other crafts. And the interesting way that she has been updating this is that every week or so, or probably about every week, she pops in and she kind of copies and pastes the whole thing, but then adds a highlighted line with the date of what she did to progress against that particular goal. So if it was like about the loom, then she would say like September 27th, I did this. And then the next time she posts, she would copy and paste the whole thing and then add another highlighted line. October 15th, I did blah, 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 related to this. So if you read the latest post, you can see all of the progress that she's made over each one of these goals every single time. So you can see, like, if she was working on a weaving project, over the past 4 weeks, she's done 4 different items that have all sort of contributed to the finishing of that particular project. So it's actually a really, really interesting way of tracking your learning. So I wanted to highlight that for you and then encourage you to pop in and check out her thread. So this is Kira's learning plan here, and she's done a ton of projects. She's also woven the radiant towels with the optical color mixing. And here are just a couple of the other things that she's worked on. So the one on the right here, these are the bitmap towels. These are the summer and winter towels that we taught last year. And the pattern is available. The whole idea is that you have all of these different color blocks, and then you're using the different treadling techniques from summer and winter to create all different kinds of textures, different color blending effects. And so hopefully that was really fun to make. But the towels look fantastic. So those are Kira's towels. And then you guys might be familiar with the project on the left, which is the color GAMP project that we did from handwoven color. It's an optical mixing idea. So it's basically taking all these different colors of tough love sock, putting them on I put them on my baby wolf loom and was weaving plain weave with it. And my baby wolf loom has a weaving width of 26 inches weaving width. And so I was able to put the whole shawl on that project, on that loom. Now, Kira sort of mixed it up in terms of techniques and skills and developing and all these kinds of things. And so she actually took that color GAMP scarf shawl project and reorganized it so that she could do it as a double weave project on her table loom. So she did it on the Louette Erica table loom. And so it's very, very interesting. So she take the whole GAMP project, fold it in half so that she could have 2 layers. One side is where the join is happening. So you can see this purple is where the join is happening. You can barely see it. It's done beautifully. And then the way that she wound the warp is then she would have had to hold, 2 different colors together at the same time. So in this case, she would have held this orange color together with the lime green color, and then this green color with this second orange, and so on. And so that way you'd have this double layered warp, and then she would weave the 2 layers in plain weave. And so she did this all on a table loom. There's also a very great conversation that happens in the double weave thread on the SOS forums, and Laura Fry also chimes in there as well, talking about trying to keep those 2 layers advancing forward at the same speed and at the same level. So there's lots and lots of good things happening inside those community forums that I encourage you guys to check out. There's one more that I wanted to share with you from Kira, and that is that she posted about this floor loom. Gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, beautiful floor loom. It looks like it's brand new. But if you follow this particular thread here, Kira talks about how she visited her aunt and uncle, and basically her uncle found a manual for some kind of Leclerc counterbalance loom. So it does look like one of the Leclerc counterbalance looms. What's the big loom? I'm trying to remember what the big giant loom is called. Colonial? The Colonial loom? Is that the one? I can't remember. But basically, the big counterbalance loom he found it about 50 years ago, and then he built his own version of that loom. It says that he was an architect and he built one for his mom, and then he partnered up with 2 other couples to build 6 more looms. And everybody got to keep one and sell one to cover the cost of all the materials. And she said the loom should be usable. The only thing that it doesn't have a ratchet to advance the warp. Instead, she says you take out a peg and the wheel thingy, and then you advance the warp. And then you stick the peg back in. So you can kind of see it down here. There's kind of like a rolling wheel and then a little peg, wooden pegs and holes here. So there's a thing here in the front, and there's one in the back as well. So instead, you take out the peg out of the wheel thing to advance the warp. And she said all of the heddles are handmade, just tied cotton like you would for an emergency heddle. So it's very, very interesting. So I'm hoping that she'll weave on this and we can see how it all looks and comes together. But it is gorgeous. It looks brand new. The wood looks like it's in fantastic condition. It looks like it's been really well taken care of. And yeah, excited to see how that whole thing works. So there's lots of good things to find inside the community forums. I encourage you guys to go and pop in and have a look. Yes, thanks, Rachel, for confirming. That is the Colonial. It looks like a Colonial loom, right? Now, the last set of slides, I think this is the last set of slides that I wanted to share with you. These ones are from Charlotte, who said she's very lucky. She said she got to go handpick some fleece during a sheep shearing demonstration at a local milk sheep farmer here in Malta. And she got some black wool and some white wool because she loves natural colors, but she would also like to experiment with some dyeing before she starts spinning. She wanted to wash the fleece before she's worked with it, sort of, yeah, she wants to wash all of the fleece before she starts to work with it. And then she gets to feel which ones are soft, which ones are less dirty, and all that kind of stuff. And so she's separated them. She's skirted about 3/4 of it. And you can see that she's using the technique that we learned from Kim McKenna. Kim McKenna teaches us a class about working with raw fleece and how to wash it. And so Kim has a particular method that she uses, all the different rinses. And one of the slides that we show in that video, one of the experiments that we show is taking water from each one of the rinse baths to show how the water is clearing and how the fleece is getting cleaner and cleaner as you go. And so you can see here that Charlotte has done sort of the same experiment. She's taken sort of a pull from each one of those dye baths or from each one of those washing baths. And so it says here, this is the first soap, this is the second soap, third soap, fourth soap, and first soak, it says. And yeah, so you can see it is getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. And then I think if you follow the thread, if you go here and you check out the thread, I think Charlotte was a little bit disappointed in sort of the look and the appearance of her fleece after it had been washed. She thought it would be even more white, but there was still some color to it. And so it's great because Kim McKenna herself jumps in and also provides her with a lot of feedback and encouragement. And they talk a little bit about how to dry a large amount of fleece, because it sounds like Charlotte has a lot of fiber now. And yeah, so there's lots and lots of good ideas and tips in there if you are also thinking about washing your own fleece. And yes, there's some actually really, really good encouragement in there that I also took to heart. Kim talks about how, yes, for sure, all of these processes take a lot of time. Knitting takes a lot of time, spinning takes a lot of time, weaving takes a lot of time, washing fleece takes a lot of time, and it's difficult to find time to do all of the things that we want to do. And she was very encouraging. She was saying that there's no rush and there's no judgment as to how long it takes for anybody to work their way through anything. And I felt so seen because I was thinking about my sweater that I've been working on for more than a year and thinking, yeah, it's okay. It's taken a long time, but I'm still working away at it and I still love it and it doesn't make me unhappy. And so, yes, just keep doing the things that bring you joy and bring you bring you joy. Don't stress about it. So that is that. And then finally, we have this slide from Mary. So these two scarves represent the three scarves that she has started since joining the School of Sweet Georgia. So she says, I just finished the rigid heddle basic course and my third scarf. She says, I haven't followed the course faithfully. I used different yarns than suggested, and I did not use a warping board because I don't have one. But my warping tension issue seems to suggest that it might not be a bad investment. And so, although I haven't used the suggested yarns, I have been learning as I go. And so, she used Tough Love Sock Oxblood for the warp of the red one and Strawberry Tea for the weft. And then for the red one, no, and for the orange one, the brown one, she used Queensland dungarees for the warp and Barocco mohair silk in copper for the weft. I love that copper color. It's absolutely beautiful. So, I mean, I think that this is fantastic. I think that Mary's saying that I haven't used the suggested yarns, I've been learning as I go, is absolutely the best news ever. Because what we're trying to do here is we're not trying to provide recipes for everybody to just follow exactly and then you get this result. I love that you do that, but the next thing is really to like experiment with, well, what yarn do I have? And then look at your yarn. How could this work? Would this work? What could I do to make this better? Like all of these questions. This is where it becomes kind of critical thinking on your part of, making decisions about your materials. How can I best use this? And so, for sure, I encourage you guys to follow the patterns that we've created. And then from there, kind of use it as a springboard for the next project. And what could I do with this next? What else could I do with this? Should I change the set? If I look at this yarn, is it thinner than the one that I used before? Should I change my reed? All these kinds of questions start to come up. And so I think that this is fantastic to hear that you're experimenting with all different yarns that I've never woven with any of those either yarns. And very, very excited to see that you've produced this gorgeous scarf that looks really lovely and fuzzy. I think that mohair silk is like a fuzzy yarn from Barocco. It looks like a fuzzy yarn. And it looks very, very cozy in all that natural colors and things like that. So that's really lovely. Thank you guys so much for sharing all of your projects. As I always say, you never really realize how you affect other people around you. And so you might think, oh, I'm just sharing a little photo of the thing that I was working on. You never really realize how it might affect someone else, how it might inspire somebody to go down a different path or pick up a different hobby. Like I look at Punch Needle and I think about all of the ideas that are possible because I see Kathleen posting them. And I see all the things that you can be doing with spinning or changing the things that you're thinking about with spinning because I see many of you guys spinning. So you never realize that the things that you share and the things that you post actually have more effect on other people than you think they do. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to encourage you guys to keep doing is just to keep sharing. I did not pull many sort of projects from the Sweet Georgia community, but there are lots. And so I wanted to say that there's like a brand new baby sweater that was made on the LK150 by Meg Hansen. So that is in there. There's like lots of projects from Socktober that have come up. Lots of people knitting socks with their hand spun even. There's just so much inspiration and stuff like that going around. And so I appreciate all that. I look forward to hearing what you guys think about this particular idea of working on your goals and your intentions before the end of the year. I'm hope that I'm successful with all of that over the next couple of months. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in November. We're going to do this same sort of meeting time, the live office hours. I'm going to change the overlay so that it's the right date. And we will let you know where we're going to host our next live office hours. We are trying to move to the Circle Community Forum and doing it there. And so we'll share the link with you for where that is all going to happen. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. And I will see you inside the community, and I will see you next month. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.